Jose, would you be our counter rather than Gautam?
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Jose.
Hi.
All right, good morning and welcome everyone to another Wednesday early morning meeting of Startup Speakers Toastmasters. We are, of course, on Zoom once again, not in Sunnyvale, but some of us may be in Sunnyvale. And it is raining. And of course, wherever you're coming in from, whether it's the East Coast or the West Coast, we definitely welcome you. This morning, we have a wonderful alignment of speakers signed up, guest speakers, and guest evaluators. So it's going to be a special treat this morning on an early Wednesday. So welcome champions for getting up early and starting your day productively. We have Toastmaster Wai Ming. We want to introduce, he is a distinguished member of our club, a mentor, also somebody that challenges himself as a leader to give as many speeches as possible in this club. So please welcome Toastmasters today.
Thank you, Hannah. We're going to introduce the guests first. We're going to start with John. John, would you like to briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is John Godoy. I'm coming in from Chicago, Illinois. I am a professional speaker, entrepreneur, and inventor. And I'm just very excited to be here with you all today and looking forward to connecting with you all. Thank you for having me.
That's great. Thank you. And then Gavin, will you introduce yourself?
Okay, sure. Thank you. I'm a Division D Director. And today I feel very honored to evaluate John's speech. And I'm looking forward to seeing very exciting miracles happening in our meeting today.
Great. Thank you. Well, we're going to start the meeting because we have 3 great speeches, and then hopefully we'll have some table topics as well. So I'm going to go through the duty masters, if that's okay. The first duty master is the R counter. Jose, will you describe the R counter function?
Yes. Thank you, fellow Toastmaster. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. Today I will be the R counter, and I will be tracking every person's use of redundant words, saying extraneous words such as and I will advise at the end of the meeting. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you. And I'm the timer. So I'm going to run this clock. You see in one of the windows on the grid, and the speeches are different between the different speeches. The first speaker is 6 to 8 minutes, second 8 to 10, and the third 5 to 7. And then so at the last speech, at 5 minutes, the green light will come on. At 6 minutes, the yellow, and then at 7, the red light will come on, and the speaker has 30 seconds to finish. Also, evaluation is 2 to 3 minutes, and then table topics 1 to 2 minutes. So I'll report the time at the end of the meeting. That's the timer function. I'm going to move forward with the grammarian function. Georgie, will you describe the grammarians function?
Sure. The grammarian is to listen to our use of the English language and record on things that I find that were both interesting and things that we might want to think about working to improve for our next speeches. I'll give a report at the end of the meeting.
That's great. Thank you. I forgot about the word master. Hannah, would you have the word of the day for us?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I am horrible at picking words, but give me a minute. If not, I think Gautam is also very good at picking words, but give me a minute and I'll get back to you.
Okay, well, in the meantime, Haroon, will you describe the video masters function?
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests. Today I'm going to be doing the video master. Basically what that role entails is that we will record the meetings and upload them to a private YouTube channel where you can view your recordings later on. If you do not wish to be recorded, please let me know and I can turn off the video so that if you want to maintain your privacy. In any case, as a video master, I will be uploading the video once the meeting is done, and that will be made available to you on our WhatsApp channel. And if anybody needs any special an email to be forwarded, please let me know so that I can forward that the recording of the video as soon as I upload it. Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster.
That's great. Thank you. So we don't quite have an invocator today. I'm going to act as a very quick innovator. Today's theme is ways to invest in yourself, and Toastmaster is certainly one of those ways. I certainly recommend folks attend Toastmasters as much as possible. So that's the invocation. I'm going to see whether Hannah is able to provide us the word of the day.
Yes. So the word of the day is candor. It's the quality of being open and honest in expression, frankness. You can think of a man of refreshing candor or radical candor as well.
That's great. Thank you. And one way to really help us invest in ourselves is to be candor about ourselves and be able to understand what's going on in the world as well as ourselves. So certainly candor is a major way to invest in yourself. In the meantime, I'm gonna move forward with the, I apologize, ballot counter. Now, would you describe the ballot counter function?
Yes, Wai Ming. I will be, towards the end of the meeting, sending a Google form for voting. You will be voting for the best speaker, best evaluator, and then if we have time for the best table topics master. With that being said, I will also, Gavin had mentioned that he has to leave at 7:55. I'm wondering if we can change around the order of speakers, or I don't know if
Okay.
that'd be able to help.
We can put John first, and then we'll reverse the order. Yes. Okay, that's great. Thank you. So we're gonna move forward with the prepared speeches. And our first speaker, if John is okay, we're gonna move you to be the first speaker. Our first speaker is our guest speaker from Chicago, and he's going to be talking about a very interesting topic: is how do you get folks hooked? Well, now hook on what we'll have to find out. Let's welcome John to give the speech. Thank you.
Stand, simplify, and practice. Stand, simplify, and practice. If you remember nothing else from what I share with you today, remember those three things, and you'll be able to connect with and present in front of any audience, anywhere, whether it's live or virtually. Just last week, I was working with the Illinois Institute of Technology, their Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and they have a program there which is called the IPRO program, and it stands for Interprofessional Projects Program. And what it is it takes students from different disciplines within the university, puts them together on teams, and they work on a project for an entire semester. And at the end of the semester, they pitch it in a competition. And so they had brought me in to help them prepare for this pitch. And they brought me in for two reasons. Number one is I'm a communications coach. And second is that I have a background in pitching, because about 9 years ago, I started a product, I invented it in a garage, crowdfunded it, brought it to market, and through the course of that entire 9 years, I had to pitch dozens upon dozens of times in front of individuals, in front of groups, live and on virtually. And we got as far as pitching to Shark Tank, which is a video. So it's another situation where you have to pitch. And so last Thursday and Friday, for about 5 hours, I watched 12 teams each give probably about a 6-minute and 40-second pitch each. And after looking at these presentations or these pitches, I was able to see things that each group did poorly and things that they did well. And sure enough, some of them spoke very monotone. A lot of them said the yeah, you knows. A lot of them, they did a lot of research throughout the entire course of their semester. And so they had a lot of information. But when you have a lot of information that you want to share, you think it's all valuable. So it was a data dump. They just put all that information on all their slides, and it was just too much information. These are STEM people. Information is good. And so after looking at all those 12 presentations, giving them feedback, at the end of those 5 hours, I felt like I wanted to give them something that they could really chew on, some strategy or some set of principles that were very simple that they could apply that will take them to the next level very, very quickly without having to worry about all the individual details. So I narrowed it down to 3 simple things: stand, simplify, and practice. And that's what I want to share with you today. Stand, simplify, and practice. And we're going to go into each one and why there's a benefit in each one. The reason why I say stand is because when you are standing, you're able to project a lot more energy. You're able to use your body a lot more. It transforms how you see yourself and how you feel. So that energy comes across much more powerfully, especially in a Zoom type environment where you're pitching a product or you're presenting. You have to be able to project energy. And if you're sitting, which 100% of the students were, their energy is lost. The second thing about presenting is these students, when they do their pitch competition or when they're going to present, they're actually going to be standing. So it was mind-blowing to me that they were actually sitting while they were practicing, because when it comes to the time where they have to compete, they have to switch their position. They're not used to it. That's why it's very, very important, even for Toastmasters or any type of a situation where you find yourself speaking, always stand. Let it become natural to you, and then it'll always be it'll be a default position for you to put yourself into. So that's the first step. The second is simplify. Simplify. Always ask yourself, what can I cut out that does not further what I'm trying to get across? And I want to give you a visual illustration of what I'm saying. If you think about a typical slide in a lot of presentations you've probably seen, often in a lot of pitch presentations you see, it looks more like a page out of a college textbook than it does a billboard that you see driving along the highway. A college textbook is a bunch of text and pictures. A billboard is a giant picture with maybe a phrase that sticks into your mind. And that's what I mean by simplifying. You have to look at your presentation and ask yourself, what can I take out of this that will make it easier for the listener to understand what I'm saying? So you have to look at the content of the material that you're delivering, but also the images that you're putting across. I'll give you another example. Let's say we're talking about visual images, right? If you put up a slide, and all these students did, they had lots and lots of slides. They had text, images, and they were speaking. When you put that up there, you have to put your mind in the head of the listener. And the listener is going, okay, I'm either going to listen to what you're saying or I'm going to read what's on the slide. I can't do both. So tell me what you want me to do. And as a presenter, you always have to go, I have to be the center of the attention. Because if you're not the main object of your presentation or the pitch, then why even bother pitching? Why even bother presenting? Send them a document for them to read. You have to be the center of your presentation. Therefore, when you design a presentation, make it digestible to the listener. Just cut, 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 simplify, simplify, simplify. And that's just a very powerful way to make sure your message gets across very well. The third thing to do is to practice. Now, this seems very commonsensical, right? But people oftentimes when they practice, they may practice 4 or 5 times and they may look in the mirror and they practice, but that's not truly seeing how you come across. The power in practice comes in seeing yourself play by play, step by step. And that's why recording yourself practicing over and over and over again, recording yourself, videotaping yourself, and then watching it, that becomes extremely, extremely powerful. And you have to do it dozens upon dozens of times. Because what you're trying to do when you practice is, as entrepreneurs, as founders, as professionals, you're trying to create an inventory of material that you can call upon later. And so the more you practice now, the more you internalize your stories, your messages, the more it becomes part of you, you truly understand it, and you can bring it up in any other conversation or pitch that you're doing later. I'll give you an example. 2016 is when we did our Indiegogo crowdfunding video. I practiced that about 80, 90 times. 2 months ago, I had to do another pitch at Cal Poly for something regarding my product. I brought up the same content that I used in that pitch 2016 that I really touched in between, but it was so ingrained in my head that I was able to present it again. That's the power of rehearsing this material. You got to make it ingrained into your head. The other power that comes with practice is the idea of confidence. Confidence, humor, and interacting with the audience. 3 concepts that we learn in Toastmasters. And unless you are a really humorous person, it's very difficult to include humor into your presentation. But what allows you to incorporate humor into your conversation, or allows you to kind of break away from what you're trying to say and interact with the audience, is a profound internalization of your material. And that can only come from just burning it into your brain by practicing over and over and over and over again. Because if it's so internalized, then you can kind of go off script, say something humorous. Then you can go off script, then you can interact. That's the power. And so how do you practice? Go for a walk, speak it to yourself as you walk. As you're driving, speak it to yourself as you're driving. Do it in the shower. dozens upon dozens and dozens of times till you can bullet point it basically in your head, step by step by step, so that you can deliver it powerfully. That's the power. So the three things: stand, simplify, and practice. And I want to close with this. Being able to communicate effectively, to present, to pitch, is a very, very powerful tool. And it's not just for pitching and presenting, it's for communicating in any situation you find yourself in. And in the modern day, where digital communication is a powerful mode of communication, and where consumers want to really connect with products and services and companies, it's very difficult to kind of hide in the background. You have to come up forefront. And to be able to do that, you need to develop your communication skills. And simply by remembering to stand, simplify, and practice over and over again, you'll be well on your way to doing that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's provide 1 minute feedback to John on the private chat. So we're going to start the second speech. Our second speaker is the treasurer of this club, and I think he's also standing, which is very good. He's going to talk about what does koala and another animal have to do with innovation. Let's welcome Haroon to talk about that.
Mr. Toastmaster, honored guests, and fellow Toastmasters, what do cockroaches, koalas, or any other animal have to do with innovation? Let's start with cockroaches. Cockroaches are an ancient species of insects and have been around for 320 million years. They are a common, hardy, and adaptable creature. They can tolerate a wide variety of environments, from the Arctic cold to tropical heat. And in contrast, koalas can only survive in forests, in eucalyptus forests, with very specific flora. The same thing applies to pandas. They can only survive in bamboo forests. Cockroaches are adaptable creatures. They're often used as a model of survival. Paul Graham, a famous entrepreneur, investor, and essay writer, often invites startup founders to be like cockroaches, which can survive in any system or environment. Cockroaches and koalas are examples of species living in an ecosystem. An ecosystem is a biological, physical system of biological entities interacting with each other and their environment. Now, you can slice and dice this ecosystem into smaller boxes, and these are called niches. Peter Ungar, a noted paleoanthropologist and evolutionary biologist, and a fellow alum from Binghamton University, says that generalists can survive and flourish in just about any setting, but specialists tend to be much less comfortable with habitat change. For example, let's take koalas. A koala has evolved in a tropical environment niche where eucalyptus trees grow. They have hardly any competition for eucalyptus trees. So you would think that this is a good thing, that they're completely survivable, they have a ready source of food, but there is a trade-off. They have to spend their entire lives either sleeping or eating, because eucalyptus trees do not have very little nutrition. Cockroaches can eat about anything. They're an example of a generalist species and able to survive in a wide variety of environments. That can be some dark corner in your house in an urban area, or some dark under some stone in a desert, or under a wood, under a dead wood in the forest. They can, and the amazing thing is that no matter what the change is, how climate change, what human intervention happens inside a forest, they're still always going to be there. It's said that, you know, when the apocalypse comes and the human species ends, cockroaches will probably be the dominant species. And the same thing now, as we all know, that koalas and cockroaches are constantly threatened by human encroachment in their environments, with eucalyptus, with forests being cleared, bamboo forests being cleared in China, or koalas and eucalypt in Australia. They're constantly being threatened with extinction. In a stable environment, especially species can survive and will always survive and thrive, but their growth is always limited by the size of the niche they occupy. Now, the question that you're probably thinking is, what does this have to do with innovation or invention? This is an example of a mental model to think about, that, you know, this theory, this idea that an ecosystem can actually influence the evolution of a species and which niches they occupy, with generalist species occupying a large niche, while specialist species occupy one small niche of an ecosystem, can be applied to technology and innovation. So let's start with an example. Did you know that the technology underlying the fax machine has been around since the 1840s? People around that time actually figured out that you can use wires to send out information. You know, and we all know that you know, telephones, telegraphs back then work on some sort of the same similar, and we've been known that for a long time. The difference between telephones and the fax was that while telephone became an ubiquitous piece of equipment, faxes were always limited to this small niche areas. In fact, I don't think that actually anybody knew what a fax machine was until the 1980s. The reason for that was that despite the efforts of their inventors and the people who were, and some state intervention, fax machine manufacturers kind of focused on very specific niches. They started off with the newspaper industry, where they installed these systems so that reporters and journalists can transmit their images and their text to their home office so that they can publish their stories. Another area was in the military, was that they could transmit weather reports and mission reports, intelligence to their headquarters so that they get this information. And because these were very specific application areas, fax machine manufacturers, technology developers just focused on these specific areas. In contrast, telephones, because they were such a general application of a technology, were applied everywhere. So you could actually pick up a phone, say the US, and call Europe, because everybody talked the same language. The technology was interoperable. You could actually communicate over large distances. And the application was just so general. They were just like talking to each other. Well, a fax was a very specialized application focused on transmitting actual images and text over the wire. Now, the reason why fax machines started becoming a more general application was that in the 1980s, with deregulation and a changing environment, fax machines were forced to sort of break out of their niche applications and go into other areas. That's why we got the consumer revolution, where machines with actual people could actually own these machines. Now, in contrast, for example, in a contrasting example, as a technology that kind of went obsolete, was the telegraph. The telegraph and the fax machine, kind of the technology behind them, kind of grew up in the same area. But telegraph was really focused on text information. And as a result, because it was so commonly, it was a general application, it kind of grew and became more ubiquitous as time went on, while fax machines were limited to their specific niche. In conclusion, a few weeks ago, I gave a small speech about mental models, and this is an example of a biological mental model of taking some concept in biology and applying it to this area, into a completely different area. You can always think of any technology as an ecosystem, and as a system that can actually, a product that can actually occupy some ecosystem and its niche. The main idea is that invention and innovation is a lot like biology. They can evolve and to take advantage of an environment. Specializing or generalizing really depends on what your personal goals are. So you can actually if you can figure out how you want to actually develop your technology or your product and what niches it's going to occupy, you can actually model this entire idea using biology. Always remember that specialized inventions, like a specialized species, will always fit into a smaller niche, while a general product will always fit into a larger, have a larger set of applications. Thank you. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. Let's give ourselves a minute to provide feedback to Haroon. In the meantime, I do want to confirm that Georgie, you're the evaluator for Haroon.
Got that.
Okay, thank you. So we're gonna start our third speech by our third speaker, who is actually very far away, even further away from John than John to Sunnyvale. Let's welcome Tao to speak on his third speech.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Good evening, sorry. Good morning, Toastmaster and dear honored guests. Today I'm here to talk about the traveling during pandemic. Next week is Thanksgiving. It's one of those holidays where everybody meets their relatives, even during the pandemic. Now, how do you travel safely? I think that's a question that many of us have. So today I want to share my experience traveling, first the past 2 months in US, and then more recently, traveling internationally to China. I hope my experience provides some inspiration for you, and it will provide some practical advice as we navigate the holiday season. Now, when I look at the traveling during traveling in US during the pandemic, I think it really comes down to mitigating the risk. Now, if you think about how virus spread, there are really two factors, right? There is how many people interactions you have, and then the likelihood of getting infected during each interaction. Now, if you want to control the first one, you really are talking about controlling the crowds, controlling the gatherings, and then have travel restrictions. And if you're talking about controlling the risk of transmission, it really comes down to washing your hands and then wearing masks, and perhaps going even to like face shields if you really feel the risk is there. Now, that's the policy here in the States. And to a varying degree, you can see that certain states is handling the situation better than other states. Take a Bay Area, for example, where people mostly obey the order, and people are mostly vigilant about wearing masks and keeping a social distance. The pandemic is relatively in check. Whereas if you go to other states, in my case, it was Tennessee, for instance, where everything was back in full force. Nobody was wearing a mask. You can see the pandemic is probably a little bit more worrisome. And I think that speaks to, in general, one of the challenges here in the States is that in US, there's a lot of rules and guidelines, but they're really just guidelines. For instance, like there are quarantine requirements from a lot of states, right? Like take New York, for example. If you go into New York, you're supposed to quarantine for 14 days. However, in my actual experience, this quarantine requirement only exists on paper. They don't really know whether you got it. They don't know when you get into the state. They don't know what you're doing in the state, and they don't know if you're actually quarantining or not. So it is entirely just voluntary compliance. Now, again, if people are voluntarily complying, the system works. But if people decide to make up their own mind about where to go, this system does not work as well. And that's what you see in a lot of states right now, is that you have a raging pandemic, yet seemingly the life is back to normal. Now, if you're talking about China, it's actually a very different experience. Their strategy at this point is is locking the virus outside of the border, and then on any instance, test and trace very aggressively. So just in my own experience, to get on the flight to get to China, I had to take a test within 48 hours of boarding the plane, upload the test result to the embassy, get them approved, and then only I can get on the plane. And then once I get off the plane, I don't get to actually go anywhere. I get immediately dragged into a hotel where I'm basically in real quarantine. And here, the quarantine really means you don't leave the room of that hotel for 14 days. And in fact, I just heard from the team here in the hotel that even when the quarantine is over, I'm still not going to be able to go around the city. Instead, they will drive me in their specialized van directly to the airport and head to the next city. So that is how quarantine is enforced, that everything is enforced pretty much very strictly. And the population is also very tightly aware of the situation. And even a single slightest uptick in cases gets basically everybody nervous. In another city, in a northern city in China recently, they actually discovered somebody was infected with COVID due to I think it was a meat process. He was a coaching worker, and then somehow the imported beef has COVID it has COVID virus, and then he got infected by handling those samples. Immediately, they locked down the city. They tested everybody in the cities, and after a week or two, they lifted the restriction. Now, this is highly inconvenient, but it is somewhat effective. And more or less today, life is back to normal, and just with occasional interruptions. Now, I bring up those two examples to mostly illustrate the two mentalities you can have with the virus right now. You can take the mentality of you want no risk whatsoever. So if you're taking that, if you're not taking any chance, if you don't want to take any chances, then you probably should be driving. You probably should be camping and staying RV as much as possible. And you definitely want to be bringing your own food rather than eat anything produced by other people. Now, that will minimize your risk really to a low level, but it's very inconvenient. If you want low risk, then your options are a little bit more, you have more options. For instance, staying in hotel is probably okay, as long as the hotel is not in is not in a hotspot. It's probably okay to get restaurant food, provided it's drive-through, not dining. And you can probably do house parties still, as long as you wear a mask and keep a distance and keep the number of attendees to a minimum. So it can work, but there's still, I think, rules that you should follow to minimize the chance of transmission. Now, which approach you take, I think really depends on your own risk appetite. it also, you should consider your own health situation, the health of those around you, as well as just in general, what are you willing to accept as risk, and what kind of restrictions you are willing to place upon yourself. So fellow Toastmasters, in recent weeks, we have heard great news of vaccine, and seemingly the end of the pandemic is near. However, this winter, as you can see in the news every day, the cases are still climbing, and it is probably more dangerous than ever. So I hope everyone have a safe travel. And if you don't remember anything from the speech, just remember no crowds, wear a mask, and try to avoid strangers. That will keep the risk at least to a minimum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's give ourselves a minute to provide feedback to Tao. We're going to move forward with our evaluation section. I will bring in our general evaluator, Gautam. Gautam?
Thank you, fellow Toastmasters and honorable guest. I'd like to call the evaluators to evaluate our speakers today. And let's evaluate our guest speaker, Gavin Wang.
Stand, simplify, practice to keep them hooked. I really love this speech because first, it hooked me due to the connection. I hope I have listened to this speech 10 years ago because I have to present a lot of presentations to a group of investors. If I have learned the lessons, I think my business will become much better. Besides the business, it's very pertinent to our daily life, communication and public speaking, because we all need to capture the audience attention and get them hooked. The second part I really love the speech is the storytelling. The storytelling here is really powerful. Why should we use stand, simplify, practice formula to get them hooked? Because of the story here, the pitching, and then John also used the story of his own experience relating to practice. Even though I have done a lot of practice, but I kept practicing again and again. That's really moving and inspiring. Another part I really into this speech is the powerful reasoning. After the story, John elaborated on the 3 points. But the most exciting part to me is at the very end, John just said, it's not just about the pitching. It's about the everyday life. Every presentation you need to do, you need to stand, simplify, and practice. 2 minor recommendations. The first one is the title, because as far as I know, the title is to keep them hooked. The 7 steps to craft a world-class speech. I think you can add 1 word, serious, because I was expecting 7 steps before the speech. And the second part is to go deeper for simplifying your speech. Yes, you talked a lot like using pictures, and I think you can give us more tools or more to digging up deeper of the fundamentals of how to simplify your speech. All in all, I feel elated, leveled up by your speech of 3 key words: stand, simplify, and practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin, for evaluating our guest speaker. It's called Georgie to evaluate Harun.
Hey, good morning to everyone, especially to Harun. Great speech. As always, you gave a wonderful, interesting topic, which in this case is talking about how you can consider the evolution of animals and the evolution of innovation in the concept of generalizing and specializing of different aspects of it. The thing I thought you did really well was that you had a lot of material that you brought in. Your speech was kind of like 8 minutes long or so, and you did put in a lot of information in there for us to understand. You started off talking about the differences between koalas and cockroaches, two very visual animals, so very easy to picture. Certainly, I don't like picturing cockroaches, but it does make a really good visual in one's mind. Let's see. I thought you did a really good job with bringing up examples, comparing and contrasting these two concepts of generalized and specialized. You also did a really good job of giving us good visualizations. For example, in talking about the cockroaches, for example, you mentioned like under dead wood in a forest. So like I said, lots of visualization there. Now, one of the things that you might want to consider is that you had a lot of energy. I think it's partially due to you standing and partially due to just be very interested in the topic. However, when you first started, I got the feeling that, I don't know if you were a little nervous, but there was a lot of energy, maybe just a little too much energy. You were using your hands, but you were using them quite a lot. They were moving around quite a bit, and I didn't quite see how they were correlated with the speech that you were doing. So if you do hand gestures, maybe it's a little nervous to just randomly use them, but if you're using them with respect to talking about particular points that you want to go through, kind of use it as a way to highlight the content, I think that would be a better way to use them. Like I said, I kind of got the impression it was more of a nervous energy type of thing. Also, you did have a tendency to kind of repeat concepts, because I got the feeling you were searching for words. I think you had a pretty good idea of what you wanted to talk about. You had the different pieces of the speech, but maybe as to the individual selection of words, maybe you were kind of still stumbling around with that. There was a couple places where you would talk about, let's start with something similar. You use the word "you know" quite a bit. Like I said, it seemed like you were kind of grasping for some concepts. So maybe if you slow down just a little bit, it would help you to bring the words to mind when you were pulling it together. Lastly, I got the impression that as you got to the end, you were trying to squeeze your conclusion together. So maybe if you would just simplify things a bit by maybe removing a couple pieces and shortening it to maybe a minute or less, and then you'd be able to have that extra time to summarize, to give a stronger presentation. I think that'd be really beneficial. Otherwise, great speech. Looking forward to the next one.
Thank you, Georgie. Let's welcome Hannah to evaluate Tao.
Good morning, Toastmaster, most welcome guests and fellow club members, and most, of course, Speaker Tao. So Tao, you gave a very relevant speech talking not only about traveling, especially with Thanksgiving coming up, but also with the pandemic going on. So definitely traveling during the pandemic is on the forefront of a lot of people's minds, as they will be missing their family and their friends, whether or not they choose to travel this year. You started out by posing a question to the audience, which is, how do you travel safe during a pandemic? A very cautious and very kind of deep kind of question that people may be thinking about. And you did, in your structure of your speech, go into mitigating risk of transmission. You talked about examples of what you experienced personally, not only traveling nationwide, but also to China, which is international travel, which not a lot of people have done or experienced. So drawing from your own personal experience, you're not only able to give us some examples and then also tell some stories, but you also give a personal anecdote of like what you experienced as well, which I felt really engaged the audience and really just gave a different kind of point of view versus just talking about a subject. You actually live the subject. In terms of pros, I would say, once again, a very relevant speech. You, especially at Santa Clara right now, I don't know if everybody got the emergency alert. Different counties, different states may be different, but we got an emergency alert that we're like a purple code. So that's definitely creating a lot of fear right now, and a lot of people that are thinking about that, like what's going on with the pandemic, how are we going to move forward, especially if we're taking 2 steps back. We're trying to move forward and taking 2 steps back right now. And once again, your tone, I did appreciate. I thought it was a pro to your speech, which is your cautious kind of tone. Like, this is a pandemic and we're trying to travel and we're trying to keep safe. So your tone throughout the speech was cautious. At the end, you even gave a glimmer of hope to the audience, saying there's a vaccine coming out and here are my best practices and here are some tips which you can implement to also stay safe if you are planning to travel during the pandemic. So I did find that to be a positive reinforcement. In terms of what you can do for improvement, I would say using the Zoom window, I felt like your face was on the bottom half of the screen and it almost looked like you were looking down at one point. But in terms of eye contact, you did maintain eye contact. In terms of clarity in your tone, you did carry that throughout. Your speech is very clear, very easy to understand. And in terms of the relevance and the interest in your topic, I did also find that to be very high. Also, your use of gestures, you can see that you were using your hands, but it was kind of on the bottom of the screen. I do have this kind of riser for my computer, and then I know I have a really old one. There's like some old cheap ones, but this is the one that I use just to prop it up and so people can see my face and my head. So I know I'm also used to that with my other computer and other Zooms where I'm like looking down on the computer. But overall, Tao, great speech and very relevant as well, and very high, I guess, high interest topic right now, especially moving into Thanksgiving holiday. So thank you, Tao.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, evaluators, for evaluating our speakers today. I would like to hand over the control to the Toastmasters, Raymond.
Thank you, Gautam. Great general evaluation. We're going to move forward with the table topics. Table topics master is Georgie. Georgie.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be answering some questions associated with our theme of the day, which is ways to invest in yourself. So I'm going to start with with questions for people. Just to remind everyone, this is the equivalent to being an entrepreneur stuck in an elevator, having your potential investor ask you some bizarre question and you have to try to sound intelligent. As well, try to remember to use the word of the day, which is candor. Let's see. So to begin with, do I have any volunteers for a question? Who wants to volunteer? All right, I will inflict punishment on somebody. So let us begin. Our topic today is ways to invest in yourself. So Gautam, what does that mean to you? How do you think of ways to invest in yourself?
Thank you, Georgie. I expected this question. I know I'm going to get this question from you. Yeah, I'm glad to answer this question. So ways to invest to myself. Have been doing this. When I realized, okay, I have a potential to do something different. So I quit my job. I flew here. It's been 6 years. I moved to the United States. So the way to invest to myself, like every day I'm looking for a compound effect. If I do a 10 minutes of anything that newly to know myself, and it's going to be like 70 minutes per week. And if you multiply that by 52 weeks, it's a days. And if you multiply that by in terms of my lifetime, it's going to be a years. So I'm gaining a knowledge in years, not in terms of minutes. So that's what I'm looking for it. And I wrote myself in front of my work desk and near to my bed, sleep smarter. That means every day I should sleep smarter with knowledge more than what I learned yesterday. It's not just about learning, it's about applying as well. So that impacted me a lot. I don't read books. I never read books in my life. I started that in 2017. I'm glad that I was able to complete at least one book in 2020. 2020, it's been a bizarre for everyone, but to me, 2020 is special. I met new friends, I met new people, we had new person in our family, and I completed one book, and I'm getting smarter. Thank you, Georgie.
Okay, great answer. Next question. Let's see. What has been your best investment in ways that you invested in yourself? And with that, I will ask Jose.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Miss Table Topics Master. Again, it sounds like a question that has to be answered with candor. And when the question was posed, my first thought was, well, I'm investing in myself, but I'm not good at money. But I can't rephrase the question in terms of how do I want to live my life? Because when you do invest in yourself, you do have to think about the consequences. Investing in yourself is more learning focus, but also when you do it, you have to be interested in what you're doing. So you have to live your life. So basically, depending on the path that you're following in your life, I think that's where you should try to invest in yourself. This is where you should try to focus on. Well, what aspects do you want to improve on? Well, it has to be fun for me, I would say. It has to be something interesting, something I would really like to pursue. And investing in myself fills in those aspects, those skills that enhances what I really want to do in life. And so if I put all these elements together, I think the overall package at the end of the road, at the end of maybe years of living, will come out something that I would like to do. So again, it's a consideration of everything else whenever I think of it. Thank you.
Great, great, right. And Hua Ming, what was your worst investment when you were working on ways to invest in yourself? What was the worst investment?
This Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guest. My worst investment, well, certainly it's not candor. Candor is one of the better investments. There's so many bad investments in my life. But there's so many of them, I don't remember all of them. So it's going to be hard to find the one that's really, really bad investment. But in general, if I spend too much time on certain things, and I would attribute, I'll think about what I have spent too much time on that did not have too much results. And that would be the bad investment. That in my mind, there are 6 things that at least I should invest in. 3 are very important to just living is health, social, and financial. So those are very key. But then there are 3 other things that are also very important in my mind, being a part of society. One of them is knowledge, really understanding what's going on and gaining that. And part of my investment is sometimes I invest in the wrong knowledge. The second thing there is the idea of progeny, which is paying forward, and be able to pass on whatever you have to the next generation and so on. It could be your children, could be other children, doesn't matter, as long as you can pass it on. And there's one more thing, which I'm not sure whether I can remember. In any case, that will be my next speech. It's whatever that 6th thing is that I just thought about, but I forgot. Ms. Toastmaster.
Okay, thank you very much, Hua Ming. I think, Hua Ming, we have maybe time for one more question. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great. All right, one last question for Hannah. Hannah, a lot of people use mentors and coaches in order to improve and to invest in themselves. Do you have an example of when you have used mentors or coaches to improve yourself?
Thank you, Ms. Table Topics Master. And I think when it comes to investing in yourself, you definitely have to have a level of candor because you're looking for the ROI often, which is the return of investment. So in any kind of investment in yourself, whether it's on new clothes, new books, coaching, as you outlined in your example, investing in your health and your wellness, the food that you kind of consume, like treatments that you maybe subscribe to. But going back to coaching and mentorship, I would say the most powerful for me and I'm blessed with is a mentorship that I have through my network, and where I can call somebody and me knowing them for a few years, they're willing to talk with me for free. But I have also had paid coaching that I've also taken a part of, in which I do find the value of it. I do find that one-on-one quality time with that person and just how they move you through your personal development, because personal development is often silent. You never see the growth. People don't see it around you. They don't see you growing. I always keep this phrase in mind, which is like personal growth and then wealth is silent. So those two things you will never see amongst people. You will never physically see it. And so it's one of those things where you can invest in it without physically seeing an ROI. So do I encourage people to seek out coaching, mentorship? Absolutely, yes. And I'm an advocate of that. I haven't got to a level where I can transition to being a coach, but I do see myself going down that path just because I see so much value in it in the future. So thank you, Ms. Table Topics Master, and appreciate that question.
Thank you. All right. Thank you guys for giving us such candid answers to those questions. We appreciate the candor that you shared with us. Meanwhile, I will transition it back to our general evaluator, I believe, to finish up with the meeting. So Gautam, please take it away.
Thank you, Georgie, for taking this wonderful topic. Being a candidate to ourselves, it's an essential quality of our life. Like the only person in the world who knows very well is just you. Being a candidate to yourself would help to know, to improve our life much better. And thank you for the evaluators. I noticed it was very good evaluation on speakers. Thank you for the inspiration speech. Few comments I would like to give that to Arun. It was a wonderful speech. I felt like less connected and less motivated, but the content was like really motivated one. So we can able to relate. I can picture myself. You can see visually how cockroach behaves and koala behaves. That just came by hearing your speech. So it's word that brought those memories or the pictures visually in front of me. If it was like with very visual, or if it was like with your expressions, it would be like very good speech. Other than that, it was very good one. And Tao, yes, as always, awesome to share your experiences. So when we share about physical, like our personal experiences, it really connects the audience. It was very good one. And now let's welcome our duty masters to evaluate or to share their feedback. Vaimi, as a timer, could you please share your timing report?
Yes. Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmaster, and most welcome guests, I'm going to just read off the time for the prepared speeches. John spoke for 8 minutes and 40 seconds. Harun, 8:15. Tao, 7:43. In the evaluations, Gavin spoke for 3 minutes and 7 seconds. Georgie, 3:25. And Hannah, 2:56. In the table topics, Gautam spoke for 1 minute and 41 seconds. Jose, 1:42. Myself, 2:01. And Hannah, 1:35. That's the timer's report.
Thank you, Vaimi. Let's welcome Georgie to give a grammarian report.
Okay. John, excellent use of grammar today. It was very visual. I enjoyed that. For example, college textbook versus giant billboard that you drive by. Energy is lost. Data dump information is great. Something to chew on. Once again, you're in the background, you come to the forefront, step by step by step. Also, the repetition was really good about that as well. Harun, the things that I liked about what you were talking about, and in some cases you were, like I said, kind of searching for words. At one point you said under a dead wood, and then you said under a dead wood of forest. I think you meant under a dead tree or something like that. Let's see. Niche that they occupy. Something is similar. Let's see. Oh, one thing you might want to be careful of. You were talking, and I got the general gist of the subject, but you said something like, they were just like talking to each other. I think you were talking about with respect to telephones. The telephones, technology was just like talking to each other. Mm-hmm. Where when you're saying they, it was kind of not, it wasn't specific of what you were talking about. Let's see. Tau. Let's see. You were saying that the population is very, it sounded like you said very tightly aware. I was thinking you meant maybe something like they were very acutely aware, for example. Let's see. People are voluntary complying. I think you meant voluntarily complying. Let's see. Gowan, you were very good through repetition, 10 minutes, 70 minutes. Also, I've never heard sleep smarter. That is a very new thing for me to have heard. Very interesting phrase. Let's see. Hannah, I like the way you were talking about silent improvement. People don't often see it growing. Anyway, that was the things that I noticed in our grammarian report.
Thank you, Georgie. Let's welcome our word master today, Hannah, to give the report.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, and congratulations to mostly everybody that used the word candor this morning. I think there was only one or two people I maybe have missed or did not hear you use the word, but overall, thank you everyone for really taking the time to use the word of the day. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Hannah. Let's welcome Oshay to provide the counter report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Quick look down on our so Wyoming had a couple of ahs and 2 repeats of the word and. Hannah had 4. Harun, nothing. I had 3. Gavin had none. Georgie had none. Tao had 5. Repeats of the word your. John, a couple of repeats on repeat on and Godam, I didn't detect any. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Oshay. So overall, today's meeting was very good. We started on time. We didn't face any technical issues, and yeah, we coordinated well. And evaluators, Toastmasters, and duty masters, you did really a great job. I don't have any feedback. I felt very good. We are doing very good on every day, every week, Wednesday early morning. I really like that team. We are doing very good. Okay. Do we have a joke master today, Wei-Ming?
A very quick joke. So a little boy, 4 years old, was telling his dad, I have decided to get married. The dad said, wonderful. Do you have a girl in mind? The boy said, yes, Grandma. She said she loves me. I love her too. And she's the best cook and storyteller in the world. Dad said, that's nice, but we have a small problem here. What problem? She happens to be my mother. How can you marry my mother? The boy said, why not? You marry mine.
That's a great one. Right. Thanks, Wei-Ming. Let's hand over the control to our president, Hannah.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. And before we count up the votes for today and also assign duties, we'll just ask for our remaining guests, John, if you want to unmute and just give us your feedback, what you thought about the meeting, your key takeaways, anything you want to share out.
Thank you, Hannah. I felt the meeting went very, very well. You have a very fun group. everyone was very professional. I felt like the level was high. And I just felt that it was a very warm and inviting group with very good feedback. Looking at the chat and the verbal displays of what everybody was providing, I thought that was excellent. That's it. That's it. I thought it was, thank you again for having me. Thank you again for having me. That's my feedback.
Thank you, John. John has definitely shared his LinkedIn, but you can follow him on different social media outlets. He is an international speaker, and we are very much international type of club. And so definitely follow him. Thank you, John, for participating this morning and also giving your speech. And we can't thank Gavin. I think he left early, but we did try to say thank you to Gavin as well. All right. If you have not voted, please do. I think I'll share it one more time, but we're missing just a few votes here before we can tally up. But do we have anybody that wants to be Toastmaster for next week? Toastmaster for next week? Any volunteers?
I can be Toastmaster or evaluator.
All right.
So am I Toastmaster or evaluator?
I'll put you down for Toastmaster, Haroon.
Okay.
I don't want to inflict pain on people voluntarily like Georgie. Any speakers
I
besides?
don't have any problems with it, so.
Besides Wei Ming, any other speakers that want to speak, or Wei Ming is secondary?
I'll speak, I guess. I'll see.
Jose, all right. Any evaluators out there?
I can be an evaluator.
Yeah, okay, excellent.
Oh, by the way, next week is Thanksgiving, is it?
Oh, okay, yes. That was actually something I was gonna do for announcements, but do we want to skip club meeting because it's on Wednesday, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving? Do we want to vote?
Well, I'm okay. I think it's okay, but you know, it's up to the other folks.
Is anyone traveling for the holiday? Or
John?
have we listened to Tao and learned our lesson?
I'm tentatively going to Brazil in December. Yeah, it's going from dumpster fire to dumpster fire. That's the way I kind of describe it. We'll see.
I know I know a couple people that were trying to travel to Hawaii, but I wonder what they're gonna do.
They're even tougher than we are.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, mandatory quarantine, kind of like Tao, 14 days.
Yeah, but I think the Chinese quarantine is a lot more quarantine.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I can be whatever you need me to be, so whatever rules.
All right, I'll sign Georgie up. Does anybody want to be Table Topics Master for next week? Unless we'll send out an email just to get a head count, or WhatsApp to get a head count of how many people can make it next week.
I can do that as well. Whatever you need.
Got it. Okay. All right. Let me total up the votes here real quick.
So Tao, how many more days are you stuck in there?
Actually, less than 2. I think I'm out Friday.
Yay! Are you bouncing off the walls?
Oh, no, really, no. It's a huge hassle. Yeah, it's and also the funny thing is I don't actually know exactly what happens if I get to the next city. Like nobody seems to have an idea. That's the beauty of bureaucracy. You don't really know which department's in charge, and nobody seems to have an idea. I'm guessing I will be free once I get off the train station, but again, I have no idea what's going to happen. So
Goodness.
the adventure continues.
Yeah. After that, I was going to write his book, his autobiography.
I really enjoyed quarantine. To be very honest, I actually very much enjoyed quarantine life, strangely enough.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a picture and then I'll announce the winners, but everybody look alive and into the camera. All right, took a couple. Let's give a drum roll for Best Table Topics Master this morning. Best Table Topics of today. We have the winner ribbon here, Best Table Topics Master. We have a tie between Jose and myself. So Jose and myself. Awesome. And for best evaluator, please give a drum roll and a round of applause for Georgie. Best
Yay.
evaluator, Georgie. Awesome, excellent job, Georgie. And for best speaker, we'll give a drum roll, please. This is the ribbon of best speaker here. Best speaker. Give a drum roll and a round of applause to John Godoy.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, we have 3 minutes left. I will stay on after meeting, unless anybody has announcements. If you have any announcements, John, do you have any upcoming master classes or workshops or anything you want to share out?
Yeah, I have some classes coming up in December. I'd love to share that with you. If we connect, I'm not going to send out anything nobody wants. And yeah, it's just, you know, it's interesting with Toastmasters. Just so many opportunities have opened up, and connecting with like-minded people. It's fantastic. So that's why I just wanted to give again my sincerest appreciation for everybody connecting and having me with you. So thank you.
Awesome, thank you, John. Definitely keep us in the loop of when that is in December.
Yeah.
And I know that's one of the things that really spoke out when we connected, is that you're like, I'm going to all these different clubs, like, and now you can go around the world, like it's virtual, so you can definitely pop in any kind of club in any country.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, there's things to learn from each one of the clubs all over, you know, and they all look like this. They're all extremely diverse clubs, and everyone is a professional, and everyone is all essentially going there to practice English and just be better communicators. And they're very serious about it. And they all have their idiosyncrasies, you know, and there are some cultural stereotypes that kind of fall into play. I remember I was in Saudi Arabia, and they're just the most, you know, there was really no structure to their session. It was so much fun. It went very smoothly, but they were like, let's just have fun. There's music in the background. It was great. And it was part of the appeal of that group. And the Brazilians were the same. And, you know, all you have to do is go to the Toastmasters International website, type in a country, and go. It'll be open.
Wow, John, I love that recommendation. And it almost sounds like it's a party online.
It can be. It can be. It is. Oh, by the way, also, I have a list. I can send that to you, Hannah, and then you can share it with everybody. There are 12, I know, maybe about 20 different clubs all over, and just go. And there's a link to them, and some of the work's done for you.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'll definitely share that out. All right. Other than that, guys, have a wonderful week.
Okay.
I know going into Thanksgiving, if we don't see you, in case you are or are not traveling, or you might be sleeping in if you have time off after work. But have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you again next Wednesday.
Right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, John.
And if we need to, I can stay on, but I don't know if Harun can, or if you got to get going, Harun. I think you're still the host.
Yeah, I'm still the host. Yeah, I don't have anything. So
Okay.
I can make you the host, though.
That's up to you. We're fine then.
How can we find the videos anymore? Are we posting them to YouTube?
Yeah, I am. I posted the last one.
Uh-huh.
Did you on WhatsApp?
On WhatsApp.
Yeah.
So the link is on WhatsApp?
Yeah, it should be.
Okay.
If
Did
it's
you
on
see?
WhatsApp, hold on. Maybe I can
Why
upload
not? Oh my God. Did I not?
Okay, no, I see it now.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, it was on Thursday.
Yes, it was on Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'll put this on. Okay, I should stop recording.
I'm gonna start